My thing is very broad, but also very specific. I want to talk about the Bulls and the Sixers, and maybe to an extent bring back the Raptors. I talk about like fit all the time. I think anybody who has followed this podcast, anybody who's listened to my commentary the last 2 years on First Take, would probably label me as anti-super team. Anti-big three. I am very much a fan of growing a roster organically through the draft, having players whose skill sets fit each other. And I think about like the Bulls, who have, I think, three of the most skilled offensive players in the NBA. In Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Obviously, Zach was coming back from injury last year. That was a team that was 24th in offensive efficiency. This year, bottom 5 in offensive efficiency so far through 7 games, 2-5. Bottom 5 in assist percentage, bottom 5 in effective field goal percentage. You have to question at some point, like, how do these pieces fit? Now, I think ultimately when you look at the Bulls and this roster and what has happened since Lonzo Ball got hurt, it's pretty clear Lonzo potentially is that link, that glue that kind of binds these other talents together. They don't have it. Great. Look at the Sixers this year with Nick Nurse. They're 4-1. You got a top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Embiid, Maxey, Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre Jr., all 4 have over 100 points through 5 games, all 4 shooting north of 44%. It's the first time in NBA history that a quartet has each had 100 points and shot over 40% from 3 in any span of 5 games. To me, it's fit, it's style of play and all of that. And so a broader point I want to make up and a question I want to ask you guys, because Philly still has now with the Harden trade some equity. They have some expiring contracts. I would expect them to be active. Bulls are a team that probably a lot of people are monitoring. Raptors, another team. In your guys' opinion, what gets the Sixers closer to a championship? What gets them a better matchup with the Bucks or the Celtics or the Cavs in the playoffs? Trading that draft equity for Siakam or Zach LaVine, or trading that draft equity and expiring contracts for Alex Caruso or OG? It's a legitimate question.
Are you sitting on that one, Nekias? Because I can go real quick.
I'll let you go. Yeah, let me think a little bit.
It's the one thing that always stood out to me is how the Harden trade happened, and then immediately we went to Zach LaVine rumors. And my first thought was, how much does that help or change the Sixers? That's not a shot at Zach LaVine.
It's not. This is not a shot at Zach at all. This is not a shot at Zach at all.
I don't know if it changes their context. You kind of end up in the same boat with a different player to a degree. So for me, it would be building around. I'd probably lean more towards the OG Caruso type, to where we are now adding a defender or adding someone who can play 3 and D or adding to what we've built, as opposed to now we're trying to maybe raise our ceiling to a degree, but you got to figure out how the offensive hierarchy is going to work, the defensive trade-off. Like, I think you just kind of stick on this path and try and elevate where you can. I don't think you have to take a big swing right now, unless Joel Embiid says so.
There you go.
I was about to say, that's probably the trump card in all of this. Like, as I think through it, like, I kind of lean towards the OG, well, OG specifically. He's just really freaking good, can slide in anywhere. But like, I kind of lean the OG Caruso path, honestly. Like, one, I'm with both of you. Like, I don't think you have to make the big swing right now. And I think what you are establishing on both ends of the floor has some real upside for you. And also the floor, as JJ said, top 5 in offense and defense right now. The floor already seems very high. So I don't think they need to make the superstar swing and like trading for a Pascal and then trying to figure out, okay, what does the spacing look like? What does the hierarchy look like? Also, what kind of money are we giving him this summer? Like, that can get kind of funny. I think it'll be a little bit cleaner for an OG who also fits the age timeline a little bit better with the Tyrese Maxey, if you're trying to bring him on long term, because he's a free agent as well. I probably go that route. And I think just zooming out to what Philadelphia's been able to do, if we've been listening to Daryl Morey, he's very excited about being the the quote unquote really good team in this year's offseason that's going to have a max cap slot or maybe two. And so that's where the Zach LaVine thing, where it would certainly help them to have another creator and to have more spacing for Joel Embiid, whose passing has popped against double teams this year in a way that it hasn't before. Yeah, it would help to get him in the room. But do you want to commit that kind of money to him if he's not going to put you in the Boston tier cleanly or above Boston? I don't know. And then also interrupt your offseason plans on top of that. So I'll probably go a little bit lower on the totem pole.
And to both your points, I think the interesting part about this hypothetical is the difference between out of season versus in season. And as it relates to my query, Caruso and OG, I think the awkwardness in that offensive hierarchy, it doesn't happen. They're plug and play. They're immediately sort of additive on both the defensive end and the offensive end. Where I think in season, and we've seen this, did a whole Islands in the League episode on this. I think that the in-season trade, the in-season home run swing for the star player, it doesn't always work. In fact, it rarely works because it's hard in a 6-week, 8-week span as you prepare for the playoffs to figure all of that out. And what we've seen so far with the Sixers, I'm like, let's just enjoy this team, right? They're playing great basketball. And to me, it's more, how do we add to what we already have versus taking away and maybe changing the offensive ceiling in theory and getting another star player, right? Because whether it's the trade deadline or whether it's the offseason, Philly has a lot of flexibility in terms of what they can go and get. I'm of the mind that a Caruso OG on this roster makes more sense. And that's not a knock on Zach LaVine or Pascal Siakam. I want to be very clear on that. All right, guys. Another fun episode of The Old Man and the Three Things. Appreciate you as always. You guys are back with us next week, right?
Yes.
All right. Can't wait. I can't
Unless
wait.
Joel Embiid says so.
All right. This has been The Old Man and the Three Things with JJ Redick and the Dunker Spot, Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones. We'll see you guys next week.